and then we'll move on to our two speakers. We have been involved with Daily Work since its very, very, very beginnings, like the late 1990s. Pastor Hans was one of the main persons involved with developing the organization. And he was very smart. He invited me to one meeting and he said, okay, it's yours. Take off. I'll take off. So I've been involved. He's good at that. I was involved since about 2000 or whatever. If you remember way back, some of you have been around, I don't know if you met Steve Grove. He used to come here and meet with, he was the second early director of Daily Work. He used to come here and meet with clients for quite a while. And a lot of our Liberian population at that time worked with Steve Grove. So we've grown since then. And so I just wanted to give you that background. How come you keep hearing about Daily Work? I know I put it in the articles, but it's sort of hard to pick up on that we've been involved for over 25 years. I've been a volunteer all that time. I've been on what we call the steering committee, then the board of directors, and now I'm a weekly volunteer and I go into my cube and do the database, and I'm no longer on the board of directors. So that's kind of a little bit about what's going on, how we're involved. And today we have two guest speakers, Julie Hoff, who's the executive director of Daily Work. Her husband Ron is here as tech support, Ron Latin. And then Peter Rogness is here. He's on our board of directors, and they'll both give you a little more introduction. But thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, let us know. And obviously I'm around and can always answer them at another time. Thank you. You want to stay?
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen is, I mean, you really have to give a round of applause for a second to somebody who's been a volunteer in EMC for 5 years. I mean, that's unheard of, right? So she's kind of a force of nature with Daily Work, and I'm really grateful for everything you do, Mary Ellen. So thank you. And I'm not going to say that much because Peter Rogness is going to be our first speaker, but I'm Julie Hoff and I'm the executive director of Daily Works. Mary Ellen said I've been there for about 13 and a half years, so half of Daily Works life, which is kind of weird. And yeah, it's an amazing organization. I hope for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, you'll get to know us a little. How many of you are familiar with Daily Work? Most of you, almost everybody. Great. Well, be thinking about what you want to know most. If you have any great ideas that you want us to touch on that you don't know. But otherwise, I'm happy to introduce Peter Rogness. He is the Bishop Emeritus for the St. Paul Area Synod. And yeah, he is now on Daily Works Board of Directors. So I'm pleased to introduce Peter and grateful for everything he brings to Daily Work.
Thanks, Julie. My job at this forum is sort of window dressing or prelude or something, because the real meat of the organization is carried by Julie and by a whole host of volunteers like Mary Ellen. Julie is a master administrator and organizer and keep all kinds of balls in the and get the most bang for the buck of just about anybody I've ever seen with any organization. The amount of volunteers that are there and get coordinated in the way that she uses what staff we have to coordinate all kinds of people. So just a bit about where I'm going with these. I figure I'm going to do about 10 minutes and get out of the way. As Julie mentioned, I am now on the board. I came as bishop in 2002, 2 years after Daily Work was started. So I knew there was this Steve and occasionally other people that would kind of wander into a small space downstairs from the Synod office, which grew and grew. I became pretty familiar with it and pretty admiring of its work. So when I left office and was done running around doing a few interims that I did, this was a good, I was drawn to this because it was something I knew. I was it aligned with my passions, and it was not specifically a synod ministry, so I really wasn't interfering with the next generation of leadership at synod. That worked for me too. Okay, what I want to do, what Julie and I thought might be helpful was, especially in a church setting like this, let's begin with just a word that grounds what we're doing and what we're talking about theologically or directly out of our faith. Daily Work is not specifically a Lutheran or even Christian organization. It's a human service organization, but rooted in our faith. And in this case, in a Lutheran setting, I want to do a little work, and it was real easy for me. The Bible, I'm not going to proof text stuff here. You know, people love doing that.
And then you can sit in the middle of your table, I did.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. The Bible doesn't proof text anything whenever anybody says, well, we ought to take such and such an action or position because of this verse. Be a little skeptical, because you can prove almost anything coming out of Scripture. But the Bible, I think, does unmistakably give us a theme, some themes for us by which we approach any issue, be it immigration or any public issue. So I did a handout, and I gave credit. He said, "Nah, you don't, just take it and run with it. You don't have to give me any credit." But a year ago, I was at a conference where Mark Powell, a good ELCA theologian, biblical theologian, did a presentation to a group of former bishops that were on a retreat on the Bible and immigration. And I gleaned a few notes from that I shared with you. And I'm going to go over this pretty quickly. So, and this really is preaching to the choir. I don't think I have to persuade many of you of any of this. But it helps ground us, I think, and reassure us where we are. So 2 sections, Old Testament, New Testament. When we get to New Testament, you're going to flip the page because there's more on the back. So several themes that I want to lift up that won't be news to any of you. The first is right from the beginning of Genesis, the earth is the Lord's. The whole idea that we have a place that's ours and belongs to us and we can do with it what we want is foreign to the Bible. Everything is the Lord's. The earth is the Lord's. The community of people is the Lord's. I love the Leviticus 15 Jubilee teaching that every 50 years, everything reverts to whoever owned it 50 years ago. A kind of a clear sign that nothing is yours to permanently hold and have as your own. We're stewards. I'll come back to that. So that the earth is the Lord's and all the people who are in it, everyone is made in the image of God. Even though we get into the language of the chosen people in the Old Testament and carrying through, it isn't just the chosen people that are in the image of God. Every human being, you see a human being walking around on 2 legs, image of God, everyone. And all through the Old Testament, there is this constant theme of the people being itinerants, sojourners, aliens in the land. From the time that God identified Abraham and Sarah to be a chosen people, called them out of the land that was theirs and moved to a new land. They moved. Soon after a couple generations, pretty soon they were in Egypt for a couple of centuries. They come out of Egypt and they wander for 40 years. They finally settle in their land. And when they get into their land and finally established with their own kings and so on, it's only then when they are for a time a kind of a dominant culture. But even that is pretty fluid. And that's where the prophets begin to speak to this dominant culture, and it's generally not very positive. Whenever they start exercising their feeling like we really are somebody and this amounts to us, and there are others who are other than us, the prophets are pretty scathing. So any sense that somehow there is a strata of people, that some are more established and more enfranchised than others, is a clearly anti-biblical theme. All people, common ground, level ground, all people are made in the image of God. And the Old Testament, the laws from the early Torah on through legislation, protection of outsiders. Aliens must not be oppressed. You don't oppress the widow, the orphan, the alien, the poor, and this constant condemnation of anybody who sees themselves as kind of the enfranchised people. So out of the Old Testament, there's clearly a moral imperative to care for all people and to understand that all of us are in the same category of being migrants, sojourners here for a time, stewards of whatever we happen to have in our hands. Okay, flip the page. Let's talk about the New Testament. New Testament's a little bit, is a different context. You know, Old Testament spans centuries. The New Testament is pretty focused time. And the whole idea of who are the enfranchised people, you know, who does the land belong to, is a little iffy, because the only citizenship that matters is Roman citizenship. Everybody else, they may have a territory, and that may be fluid, but it isn't really belonging to them. It's only Rome's, and Rome is not smiled upon. So the New Testament characters are often presented as refugees, even in the life of Jesus. Jesus is born in Bethlehem, not in his home of Nazareth. Immediately upon birth, flees to Egypt, is in Egypt for a time, is himself an itinerant preacher, not lead pastor of the Nazareth synagogue. He moves around place to place, always as a visitor, and Jesus makes clear to his followers, you follow me, you are going to be treated as an alien, a stranger. You will be treated with hostility. Take Jesus to the edge of the cliff and throw him off, as we heard recently. So we are to be a distinct people. I like the phrase from 1 Peter that I quoted in here, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people. That's not to put in an elevated status at all. That's to say we are a distinct presence, but an itinerant presence. You're a royal priesthood. Priests are not automatically the highest in all of society, but we are God's priesthood in the world, and that makes us strangers, really. So the New Testament goes on to prioritize welcome to all people. Jesus and his constant eatings with tax collectors, meeting the women at the well, lifting up Samaritans as the heroes of his story, on and on. Jesus is saying, you are to treat all people, the marginalized, and capped off, of course, Matthew 25, the great judgment scene. When I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was thirsty. I was a stranger. I was in prison. You didn't help me. When didn't we help you? As you did to the least of these. It's the people on the margins where the presence of God is to be most clearly seen and appreciated and encountered. So any group of people that seeks to insulate itself from and elevate itself and treat others, push to the margins, are clearly not living the faith that we encounter in the Bible. It's simply that simple. Under number 6 in the New Testament, I use 3 words to summarize where all this is going. Stewardship: we don't own our land. We aren't enfranchised to any position of power or we own, but we are simply stewards of what we have. Wealth, the issue of wealth is consistent throughout the Bible. If you have wealth, it's to be shared. Those who don't, you are stewarding it. You aren't amassing it. And love for neighbor is the second of the two great commandments. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. In that it summarized all the law and prophets, Jesus says. The point I'm making in all of this is simply that there can be no doubt about what kind of heart we bring, what kind of perspective we bring whenever the issue of immigration and immigrants in our midst comes up. It's not, I make a distinction here. Let's be clear that we're talking about the immigrants who are among us or seeking to be among us. That's different from debating immigration policy as regulations and governments and laws. We approach those policies from a point of view of passion, of dealing with all people as the image of God, whether they're here already or someplace else. But policy can be debated. There can be debate over our moral mandate to treat with compassion and equality, and to see everybody in our midst, whether it's even immigrants who are being demonized as being lawbreakers and should be thrown out. Well, even any deportation policy should be viewed through the screen of, are we dealing with people as though they are created in the image of God? We deal with everybody as a carrier of the image of God. So theologically, that propels us into work like Daily Work, which specifically says we're taking people who are having a hard time getting established in the work world, and we're going to help find the work in just livable wage jobs. So, Julie, I may chime in before the hour stops, but I won't guarantee I won't. But it's your show from here on.
Okay, I said you weren't gonna hear from me. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it for being here this morning. Way back to the beginning, our Saviors was involved in the beginning. There were like 5 churches where the pastors were going, well, like our members have to work 2 to 3 jobs to just make ends meet. They have no time for their family, no time for their church, and we need to help them with this. So this is sort of how it evolved over. And there are other churches. We were the main ones on this side of the river. Christ on Capitol Hill, Redeemer Lutheran in St. Paul, and St. Anthony Park are a few of the churches that were involved in getting the organization going. And you'll see when you hear from Julie, we evolved from Steve Grove and Sarah Beth earlier on doing all the work. They didn't have interns. They would meet with the clients. The clients, our original model, they had to get referred to us through the pastors of the church because we didn't have enough people to help them. And so it evolved over time to get much bigger, and Julie will talk about that. But so we started out pretty much as a Lutheran organization, but no longer do we have any limitations or anything. So I'll turn it to Julie, and you'll hear how we've evolved in the massive amount of help we're doing now for people. You have a question, right? No, Sam.
Afternoon. I'm working for you. Really got started. I think last year. The thing that we recommend memory because I just died here.
Oh, say the question again. I'm sorry.
I missed the beginning and then at the beginning.
Did I miss anything at the beginning?
No. No, we're just getting started. I mean, you heard most of Peter's comments.
Yeah, I just want to tell you I just died here. And I don't know if I remember that.
Nothing important yet. I mean, you heard most of Peter. And during yours, so I know that made it sound funny, but it totally was not meant that way. My apologies to you, Peter. And just wanted to point out too that both Peter's wife and his daughter are here this morning, Jerry and Rachel. So daily work is kind of a family affair. As you heard, my husband's here. It's like, once you come in, you know, everybody gets involved. So anyhow, thank you. And if I miss anything, just ask, or, you know, if you feel like you missed anything later, just ask. And I'm going to encourage you all of you to make this a little bit of a conversation. You know, I'm kind of a diehard daily work fan, so I can really go on if you want me to. But it'd be much more fun if we can have a conversation about some of these things. So Ron, next slide. So I just, we already did the let's get to know each other. This was one of my interns, Nastejo. She used to bring us sambusas every time she came in. So she was quite a favorite. Next slide. Oh, yeah, great. So because I wanted to make this easy on myself and because I think that video and stories are the most compelling thing, we created a video earlier this year. And this is kind of a big, broad overview of daily work, and it features a lot of the daily work staff members.
For so many people we meet at daily work, getting here wasn't easy. Some fled war or violence, others spent years in refugee camps, waiting for the chance to start over.
And through it all, people still have hope and dreams for an education, a safe place to live, and a good job. That's why they come to daily work. It's an honor to be trusted like that.
Daily Work's mission is to partner with people to find quality work by providing comprehensive employment services and fostering meaningful, supportive relationships. Since 2000, we've been learning, growing, and adapting to meet emerging needs in the community.
When job seekers first come to us, most are unemployed and 9 out of 10 live in poverty. They're facing big challenges: language barriers, childcare, transportation, and legal records. More than 70% of the people we serve are immigrants or refugees. We also work with people born in the US who are dealing with health issues, housing instability, and other challenges that make it hard to hold a job.
At Daily Work, we help people find jobs and so much more, because everything is connected. Even one missing piece can make it hard, not just to get a job, but to keep it. Of course, we help with resumes and applications, but we also give rights to interviews, help open bank accounts, provide laptops, and help people get their driver's license.
Every year, we work with about 250 people, and every story is different. So our support is too. That's why we work one-to-one with each job seeker. But what truly sets daily work apart is our commitment. We don't give up, and that can change everything.
And we don't do it alone. Interns, volunteers, donors, and community partners, everyone is critical. Together, our interns and volunteers contribute more than 7,000 hours a year, doubling the size of our team. And that impact goes both ways. Our interns build skills for careers in human services, and volunteers gain perspectives that change their.
You know, I can read the news about the barriers job seekers face, but when I hear it firsthand, it has a bigger impact on me. When I sit with someone and hear about their 3-hour bus ride, I understand the challenges people face on a different level. And for me, the relationships I built here turn every success into a moment of real joy for both of us.
A job isn't the end, it's the beginning. When someone starts working, building their future and their kids' futures, the world's running by bringing their skills and dedication to essential roles like nurses, drivers, cleaners, and more.
Every resume, every driver's license, every paycheck. It's a step closer to someone's dream. And you can be a part of it. Volunteer, donate, spread the word. Because when we come together, we don't just change lives. We build the kind of communities our job seekers dreamed about.
Makes me want to introduce you to every person in that video, because every one of them has such an amazing story. And I think the other thing that really, watching that again for the first time in a little while, is just the dedication of our volunteers. Linda, she gives up a day a week of her life to come in and work with our folks for 6, 7, 8 hours. And she's been doing that for over 5 years. So we have some really amazing volunteers like Mary Ellen, like Peter, who've been around for so long and really dedicate themselves. And I think that's a testament to what that daily work is really meaningful to a lot of people. And so, we're pretty much the same as we were 25 years ago. We're 25 years old this year. And our mission is essentially the same. We want to partner with people in really deep and meaningful ways and address their needs in a very comprehensive manner, because you just can't separate employment from anything else, right? I mean, it impacts every part of your life, and every other decision and your working life also impacts, how you live your life, right? So we can't separate those things. And our vision of all of that is that we want to help build a community where everyone has the opportunities and connections to shape their own futures. Because that's what is meaningful to us in our lives, right? Is to have the financial stability and the connections and the relationships in community to be able to live the life we want, which, in the early days, as Mary Ellen mentioned, was people being able to go to church if they wanted to and not have to work a second or a third job every Sunday morning. And that's our vision, is that people can do what they want to do in a reasonable manner. Next slide. As I mentioned, we're 25 years old, and Jim Erlinson with Lutheran Church of the Redeemer in Frogtown area up of Dale was one of the founding pastors, and he talked about the promise of the gospel is that God wants to transform lives. And one way we do that is through meaningful work that offers a future. And helping people find that work is a tangible way to live the gospel, not just speak it. A little bit about the history again. We were founded in 2000. And then these are the churches that were part of the initial group. There's 8 initial churches, including Christ on Capitol Hill, where we still have office space today. And First Lutheran, Mug Community Lutheran, Holy Trinity, Lutheran Church of the Redeemer, Our Saviors, San Martin Lutheran Church, which I don't think is out there anymore, and Zion Lutheran. And nearly a founder, as Mary Ellen mentioned, was St. Anthony Park Lutheran. They weren't part of the original 8, but they were in there very early on and continue to support us to this day, just as Our Saviors does. That was our original office, by the way, that Peter mentioned in his opening comments. It's a little conference room, and we packed, we had like 4 workstations in there. So we'd have 4 people with interns meeting with folks at that time. And we were founded as a ministry of the Lutheran Church. And then in 2006, we became an independent nonprofit organization. As I said, our mission and work is really similar. The main thing that is changing is just the numbers of people we're serving are increasing. We haven't had less than 50 people on our waiting list all year this year. I think that that's due in great part to a lot of the refugee resettlement services being cut. So refugees usually get 6 months of support. Those things were being cut very quickly, and a lot of organizations were laying off staff very quickly, and folks had no notice. And so one of the areas that's been changing for us is our partnerships with English language schools. What they noticed immediately is that a lot of their clients were coming to them for way more than English language stuff all of a sudden. And then they started reaching out to us to get support with that because they weren't equipped to handle that. So we see a great opportunity to potentially partner with those English language schools, but of course that takes, more staff, more time. Volunteers are amazing, but they need people to support them in their roles. The other thing that's impacting us, which is changing a little bit this year now, but is over the last prior 2 years, like 23 and 24, we started serving a lot more refugees and a lot more asylum seekers. And the big difference with those folks is that when you're very new to the country, you have a lot more needs. You know, you don't know the language in a lot of cases. You don't know where to go. You haven't gotten financially stable. Because of the way our systems work, you often were having to switch over into new systems. Refugee cash and resettlement benefits were different than SNAP and MFIP and the other kind of main programs, which feels silly to me that people had to move from program to program, but that's how it was rigged. And so that just requires a lot more intensive effort on our part. It means that now we're doing a lot more work around housing. We're doing a lot more work around transportation. We're doing a lot, like we have people, we had interns that have language skills, and they'll ride the bus with people to help them learn how to do it. Because, you know, if you don't know the language, riding the bus is not that straightforward. It's not always that straightforward until you get used to it for anyone. Our current staff is 3.8, which means that we have 3 full-time people and 1 person at about 32 hours a week. And as the video said, last year we had over 7,600 hours of volunteer service. And that's an amazing thing. And then, as I noted earlier, everything is connected. You can't just say, oh, you're going to get a job and then you have to ride the bus for 3 hours each way. That's not sustainable for anyone. And I've seen people do it for a period of time, but we have to get them better transportation as fast as possible. And as Maria mentioned in the video, 90% of our job seekers are living at or below the poverty line. That probably correlates directly to the fact that 71% last year were unemployed when they came to us. That's a tremendously high number. It is so much easier to get a job if you've already got a job. Some of the things that make daily work a little different is this is what our clients tell us, is that we listen deeply in a different way. A lot of times organizations will have client or relationships with employers. They also have grant programs that they have to meet certain criteria for, especially if they have government grants. So they really push clients hard to just take a job, any job. And our goal is to support people in getting the job that is sustainable and right for them. And sometimes that's not in the timeline that we might want them to do it in. Sometimes it means we have to be patient and really think about why is somebody telling us this isn't the job that works for us. But there are people that have come to us and said, you are the first agency that has ever really listened to us and said, we want to know what you want to do. So that's a really important piece to how we approach our work with people, and that it's participant driven, and that our job seekers have self-determination in how they move forward with their lives. The other thing that's a little different for us is that because we're privately funded, we don't really get any government money, excuse me, is that means that we set our rules about who we serve. And so we can serve anybody we choose to serve. And if they need our support, we do that. And it's easy to access. I mean, other than a 50-person waiting list at this point, which is, you know, heartbreaking for us. We can serve anyone. And that's hard. You know, a lot of other organizations, you have to be getting money from this program, or you have to be doing that. And so a lot of people slip through the cracks. And whether you're an asylum seeker, who are the folks that are most often left out of services, they're really ineligible for almost everything, to refugees who are now also kind of falling out of a lot of the different programs, to people who've been here for a while, we can serve you and support you in the ways that work for you. And we really try to see what's possible with people. We are faced with a lot of folks that are really in tough situations and things seem very difficult, but our goal is to approach that from a very strengths-based perspective and help people recognize what's going well or what they've got going for them and how they can use that to make themselves an attractive job candidate. And then the one thing I forgot is that the other great thing about daily work is we can complement other services, not compete with them. You know, so sometimes other groups will call us, you know, like the YWCA is a big referral partner to us because they work with a lot of people getting a program called Minnesota Family Investment Program, which is kind of it's the federal program that's temporary aid for needy assistance for needy families, which is the kind of welfare program for people in poverty with kids. And those programs usually only have time to meet with people once a month. Can you imagine only having once a month to have someone help you find a new job? I mean, for those of us who grew up here, who, especially who are white and Western, you know, we've been told when you don't have a job, your job is to find a job, that you should spend 40 hours a week on that. Now imagine that you don't have English language skills or computer skills, or you don't know anyone. So you're really dependent on organizations like Daily Work and other groups to help you be able to spend that time. Now imagine you get an hour a month. How long is it going to take you to find a job? A while. So having one more video. This is Marva. She's one of my, you know, she's a wonderful person, and I know you'll love her. She and several of her family members have come to Daily Work. I'm just giving you time to get to the right screen. And she still comes to us today. We've helped her get several move-up jobs. We've supported her with getting her driver's license. We've supported her with getting new apartments a couple of times. I mean, so as you'll hear from her, we've kind of been her people.
Everything is hard when you move from the different country to different country. It's harder too because everything is different and you need some people to help you to get life easier, to reach out your dream easier, and daily work is that person. When I came here, we have like difficult things. At the first, I didn't know English at the time, so it was too hard because when I went to the like hospital or something like that, then go to school, and it was hard to speak English. So when I started from the zero. I didn't know any word of English, and I'm now here, and it me confident I can do it more better and better. In Afghanistan, it's different because you don't have too much opportunity, especially for the women. Yeah, the boys can do everything they want, but the women, they just can work at home or some office, and that was really hard. And when I came here, I just said, I want to study fashion and design. I want to design organic clothes because I'm Indian. Have a own business in the future. I was looking to study here, but when I went to the college and they said you are not citizen, you cannot study here, and I just disappointed and leave it. And after that, I just looking for the job, and I get a job, and that was too hard because I didn't know about the like Google Maps, and I just spent in the street like an hour to find the bus station. And after that, I said, okay, you can work your whole life, but you have to study too. And I just went to the college again. I just said, I want to study here. And they said the same thing, you cannot study here. I said, okay, I want to study here. Every day I just went to college and said, I want to study here. I want to study here. And they said, no, no, no. And then I went to the other work and say, I want to study. And so the other work give me a computer because I really need a computer, and that's really good because then I just look at the website and they said like I can see I can study in the college if they have like parole case or asylum case or asylum in the process, and I just show them it's like you write this here, it means I can study it here, and they said okay, you can study here, and I'm at the college now, and now I'm playing soccer. And then I just found my dream here. I was looking for a house, and I went there and I met Jolie there, and I just talked with her. She is helping me to like find a new apartment and that be a good area because that I need to new job too. And she helped me to apply for the new job. She did apply for the new job, and I had one interview for that too. She helped me to with driving practice. She made the appointment for me, and I will get my driving license and I will drive. Yeah, she helped me a lot. I would say how they will work because they are helping me to reach my dream. Yeah, because if I have a problem and nobody helps me, I cannot reach to my dream. If I have some people like daily work help me, I will reach out my dream sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a wonderful young woman. She was 21 when we filmed that. And part of what you don't see in there is Marva was part of one of the pieces on television of the push of Afghans trying to get out of the country. And she was almost trampled trying to get out. She saw people shot in front of her. She had to leave that video filming 3 or 4 times because she was struggling so much with it. So, you know, they have these wonderful stories, and they so willingly share how daily work has been a big part of their life. But most of the people we talk to have some really horrific, difficult things. And part of the reason I share that with you is because I think that if we start to help other people see the strength of so many of these folks that are coming to our country, that some of these stories need to get out there a little bit more prolifically. The stories that come out shape our culture in the media, in movies, in everything. And we have to take that narrative back so people know what the real stories are of immigrants in our country, because they are profound stories that are hard to capture, in all honesty. I was going to say one other thing about Marva. I can't remember what it was. So I'll go on to our programs. So daily work has grown a lot in the last year. Of course, we provide the employment services that we're known for, which is that one-to-one assistance. And then we've kind of added in the fact that we do a lot of stability supports. We always talk about being comprehensive, but we want people to have a better understanding of what that means. And so that means, you know, a direct assistance and referrals for housing, healthcare, and other essential needs related to food, clothing, shelter, et cetera, and transportation, of course. And related to transportation, we just bought a car, which is sort of a scary thing, but we did buy a car, and we are going to be doing some practice driving with folks, because if you're new to this country and you don't have a network of people who have cars and you're an adult, it's really hard to get your license. So we've got all these permanent drivers out there who can't get the next step because they can't get enough time behind the wheel to get comfortable and pass the test. And so this is going to be our attempt to do that. Costs for that at a driving school, you know, if you buy a package, it's cheap. It's about $675 for 6 hours worth of lessons. You know, if you're a kid, you have to have at least 50 hours of practice time. Now, adults maybe can knock that down a little bit, but you know, who's got that kind of money to invest in those things? Daily work can help people get at least 2.5 times more practice. We aren't charging for that service at this point. For our clients, it's going to be a free service provided by volunteers, but there are expenses to it. It's going to cost, we have to pay for the car, we have to pay for the maintenance, the fuel, the insurance, and that'll probably cost us 20 grand a year for about 400 hours of service. So, and we'd love to do more, but on a cost comparison basis, we can provide 2.5 times more hours than what a driving school can for the same cost. Prosperity Ready, you know, we want to really support, immigrants with college degrees. I've worked with so many wonderful people who have come here with PhDs and literally started over. Now that I've been with Daily Work for over a decade, I have seen people who have PhDs who now have second PhDs because they couldn't find a way to apply their actual experience and lived experience in their home countries. And they're just so tenacious, they go back and they do it again, which, you know, is a pretty amazing accomplishment. And it's wonderful to see them in amazing jobs and doing amazing work. One of them just reached out to me. He finished his PhD in August, and he said, I've been bugging him for a decade to sit on Daily Works board. And he said, I'm ready, Julie. I'm done with my PhD and I'll do whatever you want. So, and then social service internships. You know, we work, most of the students we serve are students of color, and a lot of them are immigrants. And I think that's because they know this story. They know what it is like to come here as a new person and try to get a job and try to adjust to the culture. And when they see our mission, they want to go support people who have the same experience as they have. And so I think it's a really important thing that we're doing to prepare those students for successful social services careers and also to be advocates. That's really a big emphasis. You know, if we want to make changes to these systems, we need people to be able to, who want to push against them, both on the inside and from all of us on the outside. And then we also started a thing called Equity Chats, which I'd love to invite you all to. And they're just, once a month, we get together for an hour over Zoom and we talk about a shared material. They're always posted on our website. Some of you may have even gotten an email about them. And we talk about a specific text, and it's just an opportunity for somebody to just voice kind of what their experience has been with that text, what they learned from it. And we all get a chance to learn just by listening to each other. It's not a debate. It's not a back and forth so much. It is really just an opportunity to hear what other people experience with the text and share what you experience and deepen your own self-reflection and learning. So it's a really equitable way to engage. Yeah.
I just have a real quick question. Do you have employees or staff that have access to like the county's homeless management information system or coordinated entry or anything like that, or finding housing or anything?
No, so we aren't part of the coordinated entry system. We have to work through other agencies that are doing that. If we have clients who meet that criteria. We have an AmeriCorps housing navigator on staff, and we do most of our housing work through her. Oh, I forgot Techie. Sorry, that's the third one down. Marva mentioned that she got a computer from us. One of the other things we noticed is a lot of our folks just can't afford a computer. And so we can supply a computer to our clients, and we also pay for the first 6 months of internet access.
You have relationships, or would you want relationships with employers? I mean, it feels to me like to really deeply become a trusted source of employees.
Definitely is a goal. We have some relationships with employers. They kind of ebb and flow. One of the challenges we have with that is just not having enough staff to cultivate those relationships as consistently as we need to. So that is definitely, you know, when we grow, is definitely going to be a big priority, but now it kind of ebbs and flows. You know, we'll go through a period of time where we'll have some really good relationships, like with Seagate, has been a past really good partner for us. We've probably had at least 10 people get jobs at Seagate. Some of them have been in these videos. 2 of them are one's in management now there. Another one has moved into the IT support area. That was his goal. So we do have those relationships. The University of Minnesota is another one that has been really good for us. But they're not as intense as we'd like them to be.
One of the reasons I asked is I work with a man who's just now starting a workers cooperative. It's for construction workers. He's an immigrant from Mexico, and he's only got 5 or 6 people so far in the cooperative. They're all immigrants, and I feel like he should be in a relationship with.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. I do have a couple of guys who are construction workers who, because they don't have much English, it's been really hard for them to find jobs. And they speak Arabic, you know, so if they spoke Spanish, I think it would be a little easier for them. There's a lot more Spanish speakers here in Minnesota than there are Arabic speakers. And then just because I love our people so much, you know, the gentleman on the right, was just had gotten his citizenship. This was a little apartment we helped furnish, so this little couple, was sleeping on that mattress. That was the only furniture they had in their whole place. And so we helped them get a chair and a dresser and a bed and a table. You can kind of see the chair in the front. The gentleman with his hand in the air just got his driver's license. And then these other two folks, Carlos is, just had gotten a job at Chipotle, so we're outside of Chipotle there. And then the other family is probably the first family that we really, got into the legal side of supporting asylum seekers. So they came to us in 2023 and we supported them by getting pro bono attorneys. We helped them find housing. We helped them, get work authorization. I mean, everything. And it was intense and, wonderful, and I'd love to be able to keep doing that for more people. But it is tremendously time consuming.
I just want to say real quick, I've heard and I've been supportive of Daily Work for several years, and I've seen Mary Ellen Scan do amazing announcements and stuff, but this is a real, like, personification and connection, and sort of humanizes the whole program and staffing, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you. And I know, we started a few minutes late, so if you wanna, I know church starts at 10:30, so if you have time to stay, I'm happy to keep talking. And then I'm not, the little 2024 annual report on your tables has these same stats, so I'm not gonna go through them, just in the interest of time. But there's some good information in there about who we serve and where they come from. And then some of the barriers that they face. And, we have a ton of volunteer opportunities. You saw some of our drivers, we have two types of drivers. One is the practice drivers who are just getting ramped up. And the other one is, drivers who take, daily work clients to our appointments so they can actually come and be a part of that. And then everything else in between. You know, we always need case management volunteers. You know, we need data people. So if you like to do the stuff behind the scenes, we're always looking for people to help us get better data. It's a constant challenge. Yeah, and something, Ron's a big driver. That's why he was in the video. He's a literal driver. Now Marva has her license, so we don't have to do that anymore. But, for Marva, but yeah, we take them to other appointments too as needed. Sometimes people have critical appointments for immigration or different things, and it's really hard for them to get there. Or it takes, you know, a full day of effort to go to and from.
How do you said there's a lot of language barriers, and how do you meet with people that speak differently?
Good question, Mary Ellen, even though you know the answer to that. Yeah, another big expense for daily work that's come on in the last few years, honestly, serving Afghan evacuees was when we really started to work intensively with interpreters. And some years that amount of money is as high as $20,000 a year to provide the amount of interpreter support. We've gotten more and more creative with that, so we're managing it now down to about $1,000 a month. But we provide interpreters for a whole range of things, including practice driving when we need it, for our appointments, and a variety of other things. I mentioned that we have a long waiting list right now. So that's our biggest challenge, is capacity at this point. We just really need more capacity. And some of the needs are, our people face really complex challenges that requires intensive long-term support. And as other resources shrink, more people are turning to us to find jobs and housing and other stability. Research shows that nearly a quarter of immigrants with degrees are unemployed or in jobs significantly below their qualifications. Most of the people I mentioned to you that went back and got PhDs worked as custodians or other CNAs, entry-level jobs for years until they got those degrees. Minnesota's foreign-born workers, no matter who they are, earn about 84% of the median wage of people who were born in this country. And then a driver's license can studies show that annual income gains are range between $1,500 and $6,000 a year. Or if you have a driver's license versus not. And if you don't have a driver's license, the lack of access can cost as much as almost $13,000 a year. So it's interesting stats to think. And then I put together a couple little things. So Daily Work tends to serve about 250 people a year right now. That's really based on how much capacity we have for interns and volunteers. 70% of those people, or 175 of those folks, are unemployed at intake. If 30% of those folks find jobs at an average wage of $18 an hour, that generates $2 million in new wages, just for 53 people. And the total economic impact of that through earnings, taxes into our systems, spending and reduced reliance on public aid is over $5 million annually. So we can make a big impact with just a few people. It's amazing what 53 people can do, right? 53 people getting a job at $18 an hour, and our average wage last year was over 19. Puts $5 million into our local economy. Our annual budget right now is $425,000. That means if we use that $5 million number, every dollar you invest in Daily Work pays out 12 times what you put in. And that's our little crew at the Capitol. We went to social work day at the Capitol to give our students an introduction to advocacy. And we're standing there with Hussein, whose name I can't remember at the end, but anyhow, he's the state rep for Daily Works area. So other questions? Yeah. Yes, sir.
With your 25 years of experience, how do you think about the public system to help people seeking jobs and so forth? It sounds like you're intentionally stayed at way, or you're not engaged in anything, but I imagine you think about it. I'm just thinking about how to scale up the vision you have. You stuck at 200 to 300 people a year.
Yeah. I personally have low patience with how the systems work and how poorly they work. I find the idea that there's widespread fraud in the system of people who aren't eligible for those benefits getting them to be highly unlikely, because it's really, really hard for us to get people who are eligible for them systems and get what they deserve. And it's hard for them to keep it up too, because there's a lot of ongoing requirements for that. And all of those materials come to them in English. So if you don't know English, you're often, one of the big services we provide is just reading mail with people and helping them know what's important, especially with how much fraudy, scammy email is out there, mail is out there. So I have mixed feelings about it. I know that if we took some government contracts, that would make a big difference. We serve a lot of people with that. Right now, my biggest worry about that is having the staff to manage it, because we would need to make sure that we have, that we can prove exactly what we're doing. And with interns and volunteers as our primary recorders, our data collection is a constant challenge. We do a pretty good job, so I feel good about the numbers I put up. But honestly, 30%, my guess is that we're getting 50 to 60% of our folks' jobs, but what I can document is 30 to 40%. So yeah, it's tough. People like our case management volunteers, I've got a guy who's an architect who's also been volunteering for us for over 6 years. And he says, this is way harder than what I do at work. And he has to navigate, as an architect, you have a lot of public systems and laws and stuff like that. And he is just, sometimes we have to call just to get a worker on the phone. It might take 15 plus times, including calls to their supervisors. One of the tactics we use now is we call the county commissioner. We've had a lot of good luck when we call a county commissioner and they call somebody in the county who's not responding. We get answers,
Thank you, county commissioners.
right? I mean, it makes a difference. Peter, what did you want to add?
Okay, as a final word, now I'm speaking not just as a board member, but as a member of the development committee, which you know what that means. So when she talks about the money that it takes to do this, a budget of $425,000, multiplying into $5 million worth of impact, not to mention, that's, dollars are convincing, but those are people. Those are lives that are being changed. So this is the pitch I want to lay out. This is preaching to the choir. You wouldn't be here if you weren't in a congregation that was already very supportive financially of this work that's going on. One of the best convincers I know of is the annual Steps to Success event that Daily Work puts on. That's very well done. It tells this kind of story, serves a good meal, and makes no bones about the fact we're here to ask for financial support. One of the ways you can be helpful is not only to attend yourself, but invite some people that you may know that have capacity for giving. And that varies a lot. For some people, $50 is a deep reach to be able to do that. For other people, especially in my demographic, where you may have accumulated some over the years, not that I've accumulated much, but you know who I'm talking about. There are people that can facilitate in a large way work like this happening. And if you happen to know any of them, plug it into this Steps to Success, just bring them, say, let's go to this. And I've done that the last 2-3 years, and it works. People that I've brought along that haven't known about this have responded, have heard the story and responded. So I believe that. Thanks for this time. Artist? Yeah, this is mission of them, and that's why we're here, is because you're already doing. Thank you.
The 12th time return on your investment.
Yes. So today is the start. This month is mission of the month is daily work. The Steps to Success event, I put articles every year in the Sentinel about that. You do not need to pay to go to the event. Of course,